There's a pattern happening right now that almost nobody is explaining correctly. And once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. Pornography is affecting men in a way that goes far beyond addiction or habits. It's actually changing how the brain responds to real life. And you can see it in one simple pattern. Everything still works alone, but not in real life intimacy. Focus feels harder, motivation doesn't hold the same, and connection starts to feel off. Most men assume this is a discipline problem. They just need to try harder or get more control. But that is not what this is, my friend. This is a dysfunctional brain pattern. And here's the part I want you to stay with me on for just a couple minutes, because I'm going to show you something that most people miss. Porn isn't actually the whole problem. It's just the clearest piece of the pattern that you can see. This video is brought to you by my HarperCollins published book, Mind Over Explicit Matter. If you're ready to quit porn and reclaim your life mentally and physically, go over to drtrishleigh.com/book. I'm Dr. Trish Leigh, cognitive neuroscientist, and welcome back to my podcast. This one is going to open your eyes. That wasn't a very good pop sound because we're not just talking about explicit matter, we're talking about something much bigger. And this is happening to millions of men around the world right now. I'm actually lining up some incredible guests that are going to join me on this podcast soon so that we can dive deeper into the ripple effect that is the reclaiming of masculine power in an algorithmic world that is actively trying to strip it away. And as we go through this, I want you to keep one question in mind, because it's going to come back around and around and around. What if the thing that you think is helping you become more powerful is actually the thing that is quietly taking your power away? So let's start with the simplest way to understand this, because once you see it in this way, it clicks. Okay, so let's stop thinking about addiction for a second and start thinking about control. So let's imagine your life is like driving a car. You're in the driver's seat, you've got direction, awareness, you are on purpose. That's what a regulated brain feels like. Now imagine that while you're driving that car, something or someone gets into the car with you. Not aggressively at first, not all at once, just enough to sit beside you. And at first, nothing really changes. You're still driving, you're making the decisions. But then slowly, hands start to take over the steering wheel. This, my friend, is the hijacker of explicit matter and seeking and scrolling. And here's the most important part that I want you to hear. This is not you. Your brain is being hijacked. It's something your brain has learned. It's a pattern. It's a response to repeated stimulation. And once it's jumped in the car with you, it doesn't immediately take over, but it starts influencing where you go. And if you don't notice, if you don't even recognize it over time, it starts driving. And here's where it gets even more subtle and honestly more dangerous, because at first it doesn't look like a problem. You just notice that you need more stimulation to stay engaged. Silence feels uncomfortable. Focus doesn't hold anymore in the same way. You find yourself reaching for your phone more often, needing something in the background just to stay present. And it's easy to write that off as normal, like this is just how life is now. But it's not. It's the hijacker learning. And then it shifts again. What used to feel exciting doesn't hit the same. What used to be enough isn't enough anymore. And this is where most men turn inward and start questioning themselves. But nothing is wrong with you. The system has adapted to its new passenger/driver. And if that pattern continues long enough, the hijacker doesn't stay in the passenger seat. It moves over closer and closer and eventually fully takes over the driver's seat. Now, let's bring your relationship into this because this is where it really starts to matter. You don't want to live life alone. You want connection. You want intimacy. You want someone in that car in the seat beside you. But now it's not just you and her anymore. Now it's you, her, and the hijacker right in between you, like those old bench seats in the cars from the 80s. And depending on how strong that hijacker becomes, it changes where everyone sits. So if it's mild, you're still in the driver's seat, but something feels off. The connection isn't fully there anymore. But if it's stronger, you're not even in control anymore. You're in the passenger seat. And that person you actually want beside you, guess where she is? She has been pushed into the back. And this is the part that quietly builds distance because no one wants to feel like they've been moved to the back seat of someone else's life, especially their partners. And most couples never realize what's actually causing the shift. Now, let's zoom out even further because this is where the conversation gets bigger than pornography, bigger than any one behavior. This is about the environment. You've got people like Andrew Huberman talking about dopamine and how the brain adapts to repeated stimulation. And then there's Dr. K talking about attention and overstimulation and how modern inputs are reshaping the way we think and feel. And they're pointing at something real. But here's the layer most people are missing. The entire environment is now built to train the hijacker. Constant novelty, constant switching, constant intensity. And layered on top of that, you have parts of the manosphere telling men to take control of their lives, while simultaneously feeding them the exact type of content that strengthens the hijacker. High conflict, emotional spikes, constant stimulation. So now you have men trying to reclaim control inside a system that is literally rewiring their brains to lose it. And this is where I want you to pause. And I want you to really consider this. What if the very thing you think is helping you level up is the thing that's keeping you stuck at a neurological level? Because at its core, this comes down to something very simple: the signal. Dopamine is just a signal. It tells your brain what matters, what to pay attention to, what to move toward. But when that signal is pushed too high, too often, especially through high intensity, high novelty stimulation, the brain adapts. And then, you know what happens. It raises the threshold. So now normal life doesn't register the same way anymore. Real connection doesn't hit the same way. And this is where you start to see the connection to erectile dysfunction and sexual arousal dysfunction. Sad. If everything still works alone, but not in real life, it's not because your body is broken. It's because the signal isn't strong enough in real world conditions. And when the signal doesn't register, the response doesn't follow. And this is why I say this very directly. ED is not a sexual problem. It's a power problem. Power is your brain's ability to focus, engage, and connect to real world reward. And when that system is dysregulated, the signal becomes inconsistent, and then response breaks down. Not everyone responds the same way to this. Some men move into what I call strained brain. They push harder, force more, try to perform, flipping between high activation and shutdown. Others fall into what I say is drain brain, low energy, flat, disengaged, not fully off, but not fully on either. In both cases, the system loses regulation, and without regulation, there is no clear signal. But here's the part that should give you hope And this is where we want to start this shift out of the problem and into solution. This system is trainable, right? The brain that adapted to these patterns, it can adapt back, my friend. The hijacker can be booted out of your car. The signal can be retrained. And when that happens, control doesn't feel forced. It just returns. And what's waiting on the other side of that is not extreme. It's not overwhelming. It's clear. You're back in the driver's seat. The road is wide open, baby. You're not reacting. You're not chasing stimulation. You're not fighting for control anymore. You simply have it. And that's the shift. No more stimulation, no more intensity, but real regulated power. All right. Thank you for joining me again on another episode of the podcast. If you are interested in taking back power in your brain, please visit drtrishleigh.com. Schedule a private phone call with me. I would love to chat and see if I can help you out. And as always, control your brain or it will control you. I'll see you next time.